This is a workshop in a box. And that's me in the back, wondering if I've bitten off more than I can chew, because I'm supposed to turn this 6-metre pallet of parts into my very own man cave. The trouble is, I don't know how to build a workshop. In fact, my day job is teaching IT, but then that's never stopped me before. So we're all unpacked and ready to start building. You see, my house never came with a garage. It came with a massive carport, which I've lovingly renamed the shame pile. Because where else do you store stuff if you don't have a garage? The construction immediately hit a snag when I used the wrong sodding wood. Here's me thinking the fuck-up fairy had moved on to greener pastures. So actually reading the instructions, I measured out all of the bracing pieces and somehow created something that actually looked like a wall. Honestly surprised even myself. And so after standing the first one up, I started to get a scope of how big this behemoth is going to be. Yeah. So continuing to roleplay as a builder, I made a start on the second wall. And in typical fashion, I've had another visit from the fuck-up fairy. And yes, of course it was my own fault, because I'm impatient. For now I'm building the left-hand wall, which has a couple of windows in it. This piece is going to be bolted to the ground, and I need these along the edge and wrapping around to make sure that the studs don't come flying off in a big wind. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now, no one told Duratuf, but I'm pretty sure they wouldn't approve of my convoluted strategy. Instead of just flipping it all the way over, I'm going to hold it up in the air while trying to nail it. Not my finest move, but then nor was this. Pro tip, the bit isn't supposed to go in between your fingers. It's squishy in there. Tends to cause leaks. At this point it had been a pretty big first day, especially as someone who teaches IT for a living. So I went inside for a beer. Not a bad way for today. We got 3 walls built, and tomorrow I'll do the complicated front, and then stand them up and whack them together. One more wall to build, but you've seen that plenty of times by now, so here's one I prepared earlier. I've gone for the wider upper cabin from Duratuf's Lifestyle range, because I'm going to line the inside in plywood. That is assuming I'm successful in building this behemoth. The next step was to line the bottom of the frames in a damp-proof course, which apparently stops water from rising. Right, so next step is to join all these frames together. I think I need these bolts here, 100mm Tech screws. They're going to be pre-drilled with a 7mm bit. And so far the instructions are pretty easy to follow. What's less than easy, however, is trying to manoeuvre 6-metre wall frames by myself. But then I've never been one to take the easy path, as a certain theory can attest to. This is my power feed. That's where the cable's going to come from. And it happens to line up with the worst thing. So I've got to figure out how to either rebuild this. I'm thinking on the fly here. I'll figure that out. Turns out if you properly line up the edges, nice and square there, then there's plenty of space. Okay, well now I don't know whether to remove one or add another. Either way, with that 30 minutes of stressing dispensed with, I resolved the power non-issue and moved that last frame into place. And much to my surprise, it actually looked like the drawings. There's a bunch of different door and window locations you can choose with these sheds. Since mine's going to be a workshop, I've gone for a sliding door facing the house. And towards the end of the day, I had Miss Sicky Pants join me, insisting she's well enough to help, to which I call shenanigans, and so I made her hold my tape measure. Satisfied with my day's work, I made sure my frame wasn't going to go walkabouts in the night with a couple of great big concrete bolts, and then called it a day. Despite how it sounds, no teeth were harmed in the making of this video. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about my thumbs, because as you'll soon see, one of them gets intimate with a hammer, and that's certainly not in the fun sort of way. For the meantime, however, I'm bolting down the base plate so it doesn't go walkabouts in a big wind. And as for these big metal straps, well, I was supposed to keep my wood straight. And it was about this time my hammer and a thumb got acquainted. Ow! So naturally I finished my set. It had, however, left me a bit ruffled, because I went off script and started nailing in things where they shouldn't go. Once I got the tensioners all tightened up, I moved on to the other side and repeated the process. Now Duratuf recommend getting help for a lot of these steps, but because I'm a stubborn bugger, I'm going to try and do it all myself, which will be mighty interesting when we're talking about 6-metre sheets of iron. After a 404 era where I forgot how physics works, I realised the roof rafters would need to be dropped down into place. And after a little bit of practice, I found that the 4th time trying to get my wood up went very smoothly. Practice makes perfect after all. Big old straps ran over the corners and connects everything together. Next came the building wrap, and this was an optional step, but since I had it lying around anyway, I decided to wrap my wood. After all, you can never be too careful, and if you're keeping score at home, the whited upper cabin takes exactly 1 roll, a fact that soothed my spicy brain more than I care to admit. And it was about this time that the Minister of Interior got home from work.
I'm gonna go get a beer.
Okay. Yes, please.
And as you can tell, my arm took a lot of twisting, and then apparently I became the entertainment, because she found a chair, started eating chips and catcalling me. With the last bit of energy before I crashed for the day, I put on some damp-proof course on the corners, put on a couple of corner pieces of iron, and then finally gave the minister what she wanted.
Thank you.
Alright.
Apparently you shouldn't lay iron when it's windy. I wish they'd told me that beforehand, because today was an absolute treat for the fuck-up fairy. This is my first time playing with iron, and spoilers, it doesn't go well. Because not only does the fairy visit, but I also lost an hour's footage on account of a full SD card. One thing that took me a little while to figure out is that these pieces of iron have a top side and a bottom side. And the top side is designed so that it slips underneath whatever's above it, whereas the bottom side sits on top. So any water that's hitting and then rolling down just slides smoothly off onto the next piece, and off it goes. It'll be a really tricky part, but I'm trying to get this piece of iron up to the top portion. Got a couple of chocks. I'm going to make 2 of these up, and the iron is going to sit on there whilst I screw the top portion. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Oh, I'm sure this is going to end well.
Oh, bastard.
If only you'd listened to the Duratuf lads when they were telling you how to do this, or even read the instructions.
Yeah, to make that work.
But when your superpower is stubborn independence, even learning becomes a one-man job. Whose idea was it to build a shed when it's about to pour with rain? Oh right, my idea. Well, let's see if I can get a roof on it before it starts pouring then.
Hey.
Well, that's a good start.
Bugger.
I take it all
At
back.
least it's not on the visible side.
It's a bit early in the piece for a fuck-up fairy visit, but hey, that's what we do here. So I had to bring the whole thing around the side and feed it down that way. Just a little bit more planning would have gone a long way in this scenario, although I did eventually figure out that you can use screwed-in blocks of timber to hold up the iron. I'm expecting rain tomorrow, so I'm doing it a little out of order and trying to get some iron on the roof before I finish off the rest of the siding. But there's a bunch of steps I need to do before the iron goes on. Firstly, the rear gutter. So first I cut out the hole for a drain pipe, and then got to play with a riveter, and got my hands all covered in silicone, having awkwardly traipsed it round the back of the shed. I took a little breather, which was the perfect opportunity for the heavy bastard to fall off again. Eventually I nailed the thing into place, but completely forgot to account for the corner cappings, so future me gets to fix that.
How to get the iron up there.
And let me tell you, 6.5 metre sheets are not very easy to manoeuvre. So after struggling off camera for about 15 minutes trying to work out how to get it up, I settled on the pull it from the top method, which was quite successful overall, although these sorts of things are always more fun when you've got company. Wanting to get the roof screws perfect the first time, I played musical ladders while triple checking the instructions, eventually deciding it was in the right spot.
Sheet 1 on the roof.
Unfortunately, the Minister of Interior had arrived home from work. That made it much easier to get it up.
Okay, I'm too short.
And she made sure I wouldn't need a gym workout.
Up you go.
I continued with the remaining sheets while the weather threatened to ruin my day. But by 6:30 that night, I officially had a roof on. And in case you couldn't tell, I was quite chuffed about it, especially given that an hour later, the weather came good on its promises. It'd be really nice if that was the only fairy visit I had today. But wouldn't you know it, she seems to be making herself at home in this workshop build. And as if to prove the point, here comes the 11th visit now.
I think I missed.
I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere about screwing wood, but I think I might let that one slide. Now they say the definition of insanity is repeating the same action and expecting a different result. I'll let you be the judge of that while I rectify my last fairy visit.
It needs to be central, so I've got to drill out those rivets. Shit.
And I suppose I better fix the next fairy visit as well, because apparently I mounted it in the wrong spot. So with the support piece mounted, it was time for the corner capping to go on. A precarious manoeuvre on account of it being 6.5 metres long. Yeah, about that insanity definition again. And in case you're wondering why don't you just ask for help, you bloody numpty. Well, that's a great idea. I never did admit to being a fast learner, so I think I'll call today early.
Not my smartest move.
I think we can call that the fuck-up fairy's Christmas present, but more on that later.
So in my rush to get this roof on, put up the gutter, expecting that this would just slip on underneath. So now I'm going to have to unscrew the roof, undo the fastening that's holding this in place, and move it that way.
Well, good to see the fairy still maintaining her sense of humour. Now with that taken care of, it's time to get on with the corner capping. That is assuming the foreman doesn't shut down the site on account of miscellaneous violations. Now you may be wondering, how does one rivet a tape measure to the side of a shed? Something that I too am wondering, and I'm the one that did it, so this should be enlightening for the both of us. Hands up who's surprised. No? No one? Yeah, I suppose that is pretty on brand. So having drilled out that rivet and recovered the tape, I moved on to prepping the windows for install. Or at least I would have, had I properly followed the instructions. Because that middle sheet of iron is very much in the wrong place.
That shouldn't be there. Oh, Guess we're doing more ironwork today.
Well, so much for New Year, New Me. Fortunately, thanks to video editing, that 25-minute job can be abbreviated to 3 seconds. Now if only I can figure out how to do that for the project as a whole. After 7 days, we're on the final stretch. There's a couple of jobs that I just can't manage by myself. And as you well know, if you've made it this far, it's not through lack of trying, because I've still got to repair the damage from the last time I tried. Fortunately, these windows are much easier to move.
Now I've got to figure out how to get this bloody door into place.
And while the foreman helped in spirit, I jumped in the DeLorean and picked up Future and Past Me to help with those pesky flashing that make a bit of a mess when they fall down from 3 meters. Yeah, day 7 wasn't my favourite, let's put it that way. Okay, you caught me, there was no time travel. It's actually Matt and Logan from down the road, and so I sent them on their way with a juice box for their services.
So when I poured this pad, I gave them the wrong details, and now I've got a rebate where there really shouldn't be one. So I'll glue this piece of Remu in place, and then I should be able to install the door as normal.
I swear DIY is about 50% trying to fix your own fuck-ups. If you've missed the series so far, this is the whited upper cabin from Duratuf. I just wish I'd gone for the optional fairy repellent extras package, because it turned out I put my flashings on wrong. So tempting fate, I removed the thing without the DeLorean's help and got away scot-free. Or at least I would have had I not also forgotten about the corner brackets. So off it came again while I installed those. And so as the official last piece to go on, it's only appropriate for something to go wrong. I guess I forgot a rivet or two. Now fortunately, the kit set included some touch-up paint, and after the disaster of day 7 I made liberal use of it, something that I've had quite a bit of practice at recently, because I spray painted my brick house, and the fairy was extremely thorough with her visits. You can catch that video here. Meanwhile, the foreman's supposed to be ordering me some plywood to line the inside, but it looks like he might be a while.